Feeling got it bumping. Hey man, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good man. Where are you shooting from?
I'm shooting from a makeshift little studio in one of my rooms.
It's awesome.
It's like it seems like the word of the day is pivoting. So we're trying to record, home worship stuff and all that. But yeah.
That's awesome. I'm in my garage. Um, yeah, it looks decent here, but you turn it around, man, it's pretty crazy.
I was gonna say, you got like art up in your garage. Look at you.
You know, honestly, it's just this one section, and then I have it's like a prophetic gym. I haven't gotten to it much yet, but yeah. So when we moved here, I set everything up, and then kind of COVID happened, so we had to move a bunch of stuff into my garage. But we're gonna be going back to our building soon, just to utilize one of the top floors and give us some more space, man. I was going crazy in this garage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
told my wife I really had to have faith, man, because I'm here preaching to like an iPhone and believing it's changing history, and I'm like, I just don't see it right now.
Right. I hear it. That's been an interesting dynamic too. Is like trying to lead worship with I do it. We worship alone all the time, but
Yeah.
just trying to like lead people in worship with no one there is definitely a unique experience for sure.
Yeah. How has it been with your guys' services? You guys doing it in the building, just recording it? What has it been like?
Well, so we're still at a high school. We were talking earlier about you're somewhat from the area, but we're in a high school in Folsom.
Yeah.
So in a theater they have, so we aren't able to use that right now. So we have a friend's church that they've let us set up in their youth room and do some stuff there. And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, making it happen, making it work. So yeah,
That's
made it
awesome,
all
man.
set, and the first couple services, I think the kind of the joke was I saw a meme like every pastor scrambling to try to make their services not look like bin Laden's capture videos.
Yeah.
It's like our first few services have this real kind of dark, kind of depressing background, and so we're like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
figuring it out as we go.
That is funny. It's funny. My guy said the same thing. He's like, "Look, dude, we're like in a cave." I'm like, "Don't say that, man." Like, yeah. My wife's on too. My wife, she was so excited. We're gonna do. Her name's Marcella, so she's probably the one that's gonna be throwing up hearts the whole time. She's the only one that ever does for me.
Awesome.
So,
Can I throw up my own hearts on here somehow? No,
I
I
think
can't.
so. There's always two people I can count on that's gonna comment on my stuff. It's gonna be my wife and my grandma. So
I love that. Oops, I
I
turned my
I think you
camera
flipped
around.
me around. Yeah, there you go.
I'm new
Yeah.
to it. I'm new to this.
So, well, man, thanks again, man, for jumping on, man. I think I was telling you earlier on the phone that I remember just certain moments in my walk with God. I've been saved, got saved in '07. And so certain moments in my walk with God where I would, was at maybe an event you were playing at, or I would hear the music and the songs you wrote, and they were so catalytic to who I am today.
Wow.
So I'm just so honored, man, to be on this with you, bro, for
Oh,
reals.
that means a lot, and likewise. So it's funny now because I think you said it was, what year was you got saved?
I got saved '07.
So you mentioned that and you said you've been listening to Jesus Culture since. I'm at the stage now where I have like 16, 17-year-olds coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I just want you to know, like, my mom loves your music."
Oh my God.
And so it's like kind of gotten to that. I'm like, oh, thanks. Run along. No, but
Dude,
yeah,
but you look like early 20s though, man. How do you do that?
man, I appreciate it. I'll take it. I don't know. I mean, my dad looks pretty young. He's over 70 now. He's half Filipino. I don't know if it's a little bit of that in there.
Yeah.
But I'll take that. I'll take that compliment.
And what nationality are you?
So my dad's half Filipino, half Portuguese. So Quilala, my last name is Filipino.
Okay.
But I got more of the Portuguese looks, like the nose and
Yeah.
and then my mom is like a kind of a bunch of things, Irish and Scottish, and so yeah, I'm a
That's
blend for sure.
that's
But
awesome.
my grandpa was from the Philippines, and my grandma was from Portugal. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
That's so awesome. Our worship leader just jumped on, and she was actually like fangirling that I get to jump on this. Kim and you have been like heroes to her. She got to meet Kim at our conference. Her name is Bailey Redman.
that's awesome. I just saw my sisters on here, Alicia.
That's awesome. Well,
So
man, I wanted to jump into my wife. She creates some of the most epic questions, and so I was like, "Honey, could you like just give me some questions you'd love to ask?" So one of the first ones she
which
put here,
I
like,
have to say, well done. Like she just had a baby. You guys just had a baby, and you guys are back at it. So
dude, my wife's champ, man. This is third baby. She gave birth, and we were in and out of there in like maybe 20. I say maybe like 26 hours. We're in and out of the hospital. Felt like, yeah.
yeah,
So got home, and she's been a champ.
well
So
done. Well done.
yeah, thank you so much, Lisa.
That's my mom.
That's your mom.
She is
That's awesome. Faithful moms, man. Moms and grandmas.
the best.
Anytime I would jump on Facebook and I would see like, oh man, I got a ton of notifications. Like I'm getting known. It's all my grandma. So
That's my mom for me, for sure.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, how old were you when you got saved? Because I know you said you've been rolling with Jesus culture for 20 years.
Mhm.
But how old were you when you first like encountered God?
So I just, even before that, I grew up in the church. I grew up actually at Bethel Church in Reading. My parents were going there before my mom's there. My parents were going there before I got saved. And so, yeah, I just came out going to church. So,
Wow.
yeah, and a lot of things had changed over the years at Bethel, but I grew up in that environment. And then when you say, when did I encounter God? I know exactly where it was. I think I was 14. It was at a youth camp in worship, and God was doing a lot of stuff in my family through different things that were happening, and God was moving in my own family through worship. And but I remember at this youth camp, it's always at a youth camp, it seems, for a lot of people, but just worshiping. I remember it might have been the first time I lifted my hands in worship, and I encountered God's presence so strong, it changed my life forever. And it scared me actually to some degree, just because the power of God was so strong on me. It felt like almost like electricity in my body. It's hard to explain, but yeah, it was from that moment on. I just knew, I always had a heart for God and hunger for God, but it was that moment I knew I wanted to fully just give my life for whatever God had for me. So yeah, at a young age, I grew up in Bethel and in church, and I was homeschooled, so I was always around. My parents both worked at the church, so I just grew up, I kid you not, catching like crawdads, little crawfish, like on the church property. This is before like it is what it is today, but yeah.
Wild. And was Banning pastoring at that time?
So Banning was the if I'm thinking of the youth camp, I'm pretty sure he was either the associate youth pastor then or the youth pastor. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he was around. I met him when I was 12.
Wow.
And so, and even more context, the Johnson family, they moved to Bethel, I think, when I was 12 as well. So yeah.
Man, there's history there.
A ton of history, a ton of family. So yeah.
Wow. And when did you and Banning start actually like running together, you would say? Because you met him when you were 12. When would you say, like, man, like we actually started getting a friendship going or developing a relationship?
Yeah, I remember when I met Banning, and you know him. He's the hugger. I think he had like bleach blonde hair. I remember I was with my dad, and he came and like, it was meant to be a hug, but it was more like a chokehold. Just like, my dad was like, "Hey, this is my son Chris," and Banning just kind of doing this, and he still does that to this day. And yeah, I met him then, and then I just started. I was just around, so I started going to youth group, and I always wanted to be an intern. I was super young, but I was always with the interns around the offices. He had me then he started pulling me in doing like, you know, skits. I don't know if you remember like skits. It was like he'd have a sermon and then he's, Chris, we're doing a skit tonight. So I'm like, great. Like, what, you know, what do you want me to do? And so I wasn't even leading worship or anything then at that point. And then eventually, really, he just, I mentioned some stuff going on with my family. He just became a father to me.
Wow.
I kid you not, like I was in his wedding when I was 14, but
He wasn't married yet.
no, he wasn't married yet.
Wow.
He got married when I was 14. It was like December when I was 14, and I hung out with him literally almost every day for a solid year, where he would just, you know, just whatever. He's like, I'm going to Wiener Schnitzel. Like, let's go, let's get in the car. Or, you know, I'm going to my house. I'm gonna make you lunch. You want to go see a movie? I'm gonna come pick you up. And yeah, so he was just always there for me. Again, my family going through stuff, and then walking through us, even his family through that season, and then when I started learning drums, actually started out on drums. He bought me he helped pay for, along with my grandpa, my first drum kit.
Wow.
So he was like helping me there, sort of saw something in me. And then eventually when Jesus culture started really taking off, fast forward years later, he was like, hey, you're not gonna play drums anymore. And I'm like, I love drums. He's like, you're meant to lead, you're meant to write songs, you're meant to be. And
Wow.
I kind of fought, but he was always someone that saw more in me than I saw myself. You know, I'm sure you have some of those people around
Yeah.
you where I say I wouldn't be where I'm at today with him. I believe that 100%. And so he was just always that person. So when he wanted to start a church in Sacramento and move from Redding, which was, you know, it was a big decision for me. My wife and I, we just bought a house there. I love Bethel. I have a lot of friends and real family up there. And so, but he said, I feel like we're supposed to start a church, and I'm not doing it without you. And so I was literally a week after I had bought a house. And there were
And that's
talks of
and that's
us.
a long process to get a house. It's not like it's like a car.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, we moved down here, and
Wow.
that was 6 years ago. So yeah,
That's wild,
that's
man.
kind of our history in a nutshell. But
You know, I admire more as I'm getting older. I'm not crazy old. I'm 29, and I think as I'm getting older, I admire communities and people that run together long term, because I've been doing One Voice for 10 years, and I see how rare it is to find people to do that with. You see so many people rotate and rotate and rotate. And that's honestly, I think that's been the biggest testimony of you guys to me, has been kind of like that trio, Banning, you and Kim. Like, you guys, I'm pretty sure you've weathered through stuff that wasn't easy. I'm pretty sure you guys have, you know, Kim, when she was here, she was saying, man, when you run together long enough, you're kind of in everybody's phases of life, marriages, births, deaths. You're kind of,
yeah.
everything is submerged. What would you say has been some of the biggest takeaways running with Banning, running with this man that you've probably seen him at highs and lows, and you've probably been high, you know, and you've probably been low at moments. What has been like one of the biggest takeaways or moments you say, man, that was a moment I will never forget?
I mean, we've had multiple moments like that. Banning sort of, I don't know if he would call it his mission statement, but something he's always said to us, at least internally, is like, I want to do family well, and I want to get together with friends and change the world. And so that's what it's been, really. It's been like, you know, the vision and the heart behind what we do as Jesus culture hasn't really changed since we were just kids at a youth group, you know, no clue what we're doing. Still, we feel like we have no clue what we're doing, but it's just like we want to love Jesus, love people, and whether it's through an album, whether it's through a conference, or now a Sunday service, like we want people to encounter Jesus.
Wow.
And so I say the biggest takeaway, I think Banning's consistency in what our vision, our focus is as friends running together, now family, it feels like, is just, we want people to encounter the love of Jesus. We want to do that well, and we want to so in the context of relationships and community, obviously, as you would know, anybody that's been in any sort of meaningful relationships, it takes work, and there's
Yeah.
multiple opportunities to be offended and multiple opportunities to say like, this maybe isn't for me, I'm out. You know what I mean? And so I think the thing with banning is, I think there's multiple things, but I think God just put us together. And so whether that's, we're doing ministry together forever, who knows, but relationally and covenant wise, like we're together forever. And
Awesome.
there's a security to that. I've always found that, like you talked about highs, lows. Yeah, we've walked through a lot of stuff together, but no matter what, I know he's there for me. And so for me, it's like, and we've even had talks like, what's next? What's next for you in this next season? He's always been very open-handed with things. If he would say, if you're to move to LA, if you're to move here, like whatever, wherever you're at, like we're always together. You know what I mean? So for me, that's been huge to be with a leader that's been someone that he loves championing people, championing. Is that even a word? He loves championing. He just loves people, and he loves creating a space where people can thrive. And
Awesome.
And I wouldn't be who I am today without him. Like I said that earlier, and I believe that. So
Yeah.
he's been really consistent with that.
So good. You've been with the same people for 20 years. You've been in music for 20 years. And again, I think what I admire with you is, again, your consistency of just seeing, like, I remember being at Ammo Conference with Jeremy Johnson back in 2009, it might have been, or 2010,
Yeah.
and singing Let It Rain. And now I've been to certain events, whether it be, with Lou or whatever, I see you there, and you're the same person, man. And, pretty sure your walk with God has gotten deeper, and there's been things that you've matured in, like everybody. But what's been the key for you to remain, not just with Jesus, but also with your calling? Because I'm pretty sure you've probably had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. Like, how have you remained so faithful, man, with what, like, God's given you? How would you steward that?
I think, there's multiple factors in that. I think a huge one is community, like we were talking about, covenant relationships. I remember Kim had a dream years ago when Jesus Culture just started. We started doing tours internationally, and different things were happening. I can't remember all the details of the dream, but the dream was basically like in the dream we had an opportunity to either take an elevator and get somewhere quickly to this platform, or we could take the stairs. And in the dream, if I remember, Kim and I were like, we're going to take the stairs. It may take longer, but we're going to go together. Anyhow, the dream was like, not everybody can fit in the elevator, but it's quicker. So anyhow,
Yeah.
all that to say, like, there's a lot of shortcuts in life, and there's something about community that we hear that statement. You can, if you want to go quick, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together.
Yeah.
It really is that. It's so I say that's a big one. We've weathered some tough things together as a family and as a community, and we put out an album called Living with a Fire, and a lot of the conversations around that album was what that actually looks like to us is it's not just that one encounter with Jesus, it's that daily cultivation of adoration for our Father. It's that daily cultivation of our heart that throughout the day we need to actually go, God, is my heart still burning? Yes, it's burning. Like, and so that's been something that as a community we work, but also as individuals, it's like, we can only really offer people what we have. And so, especially, whether you work at Costco or you're on the platform ministering, like it doesn't, the pay's the same. It's like, we have to bring people Jesus. We have to give people Jesus. And so, it's vital that we just have that passion burning. I was listening to a sermon by Bill today, and he's, again, Pastor Bill Johnson, and he's just one of those people. When I hear him talk, it's just like I feel that burning passion in my heart for Jesus.
You feel so much wisdom that guy carries, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Just revelation, and but he's just talking about revival, and this is a long answer to your question, but when he moved to Bethel, like, he was gentle for a couple weeks, but then he all of a sudden just he turned it. He was like, it's revival. It's this one thing, and this is what we're going for. And half the church left, but I remember just
And you were there at that time.
I was there through that whole change, and the culture at Bethel changed when they showed up. And but what the Johnson family brought was a stewardship for the presence of Jesus that I had never encountered before, and just an honor for the presence of Jesus, to where, if God was moving. I'm getting a little off topic, but
No, it's good.
I say all this because I grew up in an environment where it was Jesus. Nothing else mattered, and I mentioned I was listening to a sermon by him today. He was talking, and I'm going to butcher this statement, but oftentimes we want to add Jesus to what we're doing, and it should be we should find out what Jesus is doing and get behind that. And so I think personally, and also as ministers, that's just is so crucial. Like we talk about it on tours. We've been in multiple prayer meetings before, a tour, a night of worship, and we get together, whether Banny's there or now it's in our culture. One of us hops up and says, "Hey, all we have is Jesus." So people leave talking about the music or the lights or the sermon or the whatever. Like, no, we want people leaving to have, talking about Jesus. So
so good.
Yeah, it's sobering when you think about it. Sorry, I'll just add this one last thing.
Yeah, no, go.
Bill challenged our Jesus Culture staff years ago. He said, he said, never let your fame get bigger than your anointing. And for me, that was a really sobering statement. I never want to be known for something other than Jesus. So that's what it comes down to.
So good. In your walk with God, I'm pretty sure you've had these moments, and I've asked a few people this question. Has there ever been a moment where you're about to get on a stage and you're questioning, man, God, like, can you break through in an area of my life? Or God, are you real? I know Billy Graham, there's that famous story when he comes to LA and he questioned if God even existed. That's one of the great legends of our time. When I met with Jonathan, the guy who played Jesus from The Chosen, I asked him, like, hey, like, have you ever had dark moments like that? And, has there ever been a moment for you where you're like, God, like, I don't know if you're going to break through, or God, I don't know if you exist, but I'm going to worship you by faith, knowing your character, nature. Have you ever had moments like that?
Yeah, I've had multiple moments like that. I think one of the biggest one is when, we talked about it briefly on the phone earlier, but when I lost my son, he was stillborn. We found out he didn't have a heartbeat, and we were praying for a miracle. And we had, Pastor Bill was in the room, Banning, Brian and Jen, and all these other people were praying for a miracle that God would raise him. You hear the testimonies, and it didn't happen. And so it was in that moment where I had a choice, like, am I going to believe that God is still who he says he is?
Wow.
Even though I didn't see what things didn't work out the way I'd planned, or what I knew was possible or thought was possible. And I think, and that wasn't easy,
How'd you navigate that coming from a culture like Bethel?
Yeah.
I mean, man, I'm tearing up here because I literally just my son was born 5 days ago, man. And like, how did you weather through that, man? Like, to be like who you are right now, how'd you do that?
Well, the grace of God, honestly, there was, to say it was easy. I mean, it certainly wasn't easy, but I remember leaving the hospital room, and I didn't know Bill was coming by, but I opened the door, and there he was, and he comes in the hospital room. And one thing he said is, you can trust God with the mystery. And and that just, for me, brought a lot of peace to maybe any questions I had. I think people, non-believers, want to blame or curse God when something bad happens, but our circumstances don't change who Jesus is. Like, so that shouldn't change my response to who Jesus is. And so for me, in those moments, worship was a big thing, like singing songs that I remember we did a little memorial for him, and even, not to get too much into it, but we got to hold him and stuff while he was at the funeral home, and still praying for a miracle. But we would worship, and it wasn't easy, because we're singing songs that I've sung or even, maybe written, but I've sung hundreds of times, and suddenly those words have so much more weight and really feel like they cost you a lot more to sing. And, I reference Bill a lot, but again, like I've heard him talk about when his dad died from cancer, and he's seen hundreds, if not, I don't know, maybe thousands healed from cancer and
Yeah.
different things. And so, there's that big question of why, but I've seen him model it, and multiple other fathers that I have around me model just, I'm going to choose Jesus and believe that he's good and he's faithful.
Oh.
And so, yeah, the grace of God, community around me. I think the thing that where people get off is they get disconnected from community, and in times of crisis or questions or doubt. And that's where it gets scary. And so for me, I had people around me that were really, just kind of remind you and help remind you who God is. And
so good. And was it hard for you in this season leading worship still? And I mean, were you still doing those things in the season? Did you kind of take a break a little bit? What was kind of your dynamics?
So that, so we lost him in December of 2014. And then we had a conference in mid-January, and I led at that conference. And,
wow.
But then, no, I didn't hide away. I got back up there, and, I remember, April of 2015, I wrote a song called Miracles, which is a crazy story. I had a dream about the song the day before, or the night before I got together with friends to write it. And so it was a significant song. I felt like it needed to happen, but for multiple reasons. But for me, that song was a song that I felt like I had to actually remind myself of, and put it on paper and put it on, solidify it, in a recording, whatever it was, like, no, this is who God is. And so, but again, it wasn't easy, but it was definitely a choice, a daily choice, to just choose to worship. And we only have on this earth the opportunity to give Jesus a sacrifice of praise, because in heaven it won't be a sacrifice. So I think in those moments of greatest doubt or confusion or fear, whatever it is, even people are going through stuff right now, loss of income, jobs, potentially even worse. I have a friend whose dad died from the virus. Anyhow, all that to say, like, it's those moments where I think, even though God didn't he didn't take my son away from me, I have a moment to respond in worship that I think is all the more powerful, because it's a sacrifice of praise. And I believe heaven really watches those moments and our response in those moments. So anyhow, that's a long
So
answer,
good.
but
No, it's so good, man. It's crazy because I remember we do a Monday morning service every week. It's just what's worked for us. And I remember there was times I'd be preaching, and as I was preaching, I'd literally have a thought in my head going on at the same time I was communicating. And the thought was, man, I'm going to have to live these very things I'm preaching. And I feel like in this last season of quarantine, I've had to do that. I've been stuck with myself in my house. First couple of weeks was so hard, trying to figure out life, and just going to my wife. There's one moment I'm like, maybe God's just done with me. There's nothing. I mean, I can't. All the schools are shut down in America. What?
Right.
Well, what else am I gonna do? Work at Guitar Center? Like, I'm a musician too, so I'm like, there's nothing else I could do. And I've had these moments, man, where God, are you still gonna do what you said you're gonna do? Are you still gonna reach youth? And hearing this, man, is so encouraging from you.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
It's so encouraging, man. What was when you were talking, I was thinking, what's been like one of the most profound moments leading? I know you guys did was it Chicago was massive at 25,000 in Chicago or somewhere around there? Or what has been like one of the most profound places that you've been able to lead? I just seen you posted not too long ago. You were at some arena. I think it was Passion. Was it Passion?
Yeah, Passion.
What has been like a moment? And I don't mean just crowd size, but like, man, this was a moment where like you could have never dreamed of when you were 12 years old or when you're 14, playing the drums in Banning's youth. Like, is there a moment like that for you?
We've had a lot of those moments. Passion was awesome. Just, just being able to be a part of that, is, them inviting me in to play with their band was just such a huge honor. To say I wasn't nervous, I would definitely be lying. But 65,000 people streamed to however many people. But yeah, that was really powerful. There's something powerful when we come together and worship. Hillsong they led the New Year's Eve service and like did the countdown to Good Grace, and it's just like this epic thing. But Chicago was another one. It's funny because Chicago for us, there was a moment in worship where the crowd just took over, and there was like, I forget how long the shout of praise just went up. And I remember looking at Banning, and he was kind of like, I don't know what to do. And it was like, let's see what happens. And there's just these moments. I run into people still, they'll be like, I was at Chicago. And I'm like, it's like this like shared experience. Like, oh, so you get it. Like I remember we'd end a set, and then you'd hear, and this is in a big arena, you'd hear like hundreds of people out in the, where you buy the food and stuff at a basketball or hockey game, whatever, just worshiping. And then all of a sudden there'd be a loud shout, and like you'd hear that like someone got healed out there in the break, during the break. And like, so yeah, we've just had these moments throughout the years, I think, big or small, whatever size platform it is. It's just amazing when God shows up. That never gets old. It's just, it's awesome to be in the room, even whether I'm on stage or not, just to be in the room when God moves. It's awesome. It's a beautiful thing.
How has it been working with Kim? I know it's funny. Before I jumped on, I had a meeting with our worship team for One Voice, and Bailey, our worship leader, she goes, "Please ask him what is it like? Like, are they besties?" I'm like, I'm not gonna ask him that. But yeah. How has been your dynamic? Like you and Kim, like working together so many years. How old was she when you guys started rolling together?
Kim, she was. We met. I don't remember the exact time we met, but we were young. But yeah, Kim I've never met anyone like her or led with anybody like her. Just the way she can cut through the atmosphere in worship, in a prophetic song or spontaneous moment. It's just, I have so much respect for her. She's one of those like ride or die.
Yeah.
Like, I know, I'm going through some stuff right now, and I've heard just Kim from around, people saying, Kim's got your back. Like, she's just one of those people I know, like when just one of those lifers like Banning. And so, yeah, I've learned so much about Jesus from her. I've learned so much about worship leading, and she just has a lot of integrity. And so yeah, it's just been an honor all these years working together. Again, we've walked through a lot of stuff relationally and as a team, and grown. And but yeah, she's just one of those consistent people that I know has my back, and we've seen God do a lot of things together. So yeah, it's been a beautiful experience. Just amazing how God brings people together. So yeah, I just couldn't be more honored to have done 20 years of ministry with her. So.
And when you guys formed Jesus Culture, was it intentional? Was it like, let's form a band, let's call it Jesus Culture, let's do worship? Or was it something that just kind of evolved over time?
Man, it felt like we were just, we were intentional with the pursuit of Jesus, I would say, but like the band, all that stuff, it wasn't really a goal for us. It's just a little context for people that maybe not know, like Jesus Culture came out of the youth group at Bethel Church. Banning was our youth pastor, and he's now our lead pastor in Sacramento. But we were just a bunch of kids going after God. And even when we put out our first album, we had one, I think, original song on there. Most of them were cover songs, and they were just songs that were impacting us and our youth group. And we were encountering the Lord through them. Like, let's put them on an album. And we did our first conference in '99. In the late 1900s, and isn't that crazy? And then yeah, it just it weren't super intentional about becoming a band or anything, like I said, but we were very intentional with protecting the presence of Jesus as things started growing. And protect, I mean, like we wanted to keep the main thing. And so yeah, it's funny, but though, like when we started, like albums, CDs were, even just practically like those were the main thing. And then
Yeah.
iTunes was just kind of taking off. There was no,
Napster.
yeah, Napster was like, there was no streaming. It was just a different world altogether. So like the actual like physical album, the live event was a big deal especially back then. But yeah, we've gone through a lot together. So
Have you guys had in your years people in the band, people come and go, and you two have kind of been the staple foundations that's remained, or how's it been the dynamics with that?
so it was Kim and I, and then Melissa Howe. Who
I
we're
know
still connected.
Melissa.
Yeah, amazing. She's
Yeah.
amazing. Her and her husband. So it was her, and then but then yeah, Kim and I have been, this entire time. We've always been, and then the band guys sort of formed. I want to say 2006 is when we had a band, and then now that we have a church, we've sort of tried to dissolve the band idea, and we have a lot of our newest album is the first that has a lot of our local musicians, people that are serving every Sunday. A lot of them are on the production team, and we found out they can, play an instrument. Now they're on the album. And so, but yeah, through the years, and then we've had, of course, our other worship leaders, other artists, if we want to call them that. Now they're a huge part of it. The Torwalds, Brian and Katie Torwald, Chris McClarney, who he's been with us for a long time, just kind of, not in the capacity is now, but he wrote Your Love Never Fails, which we recorded way back when. So we've always been connected. But yeah, we just bring in these different people throughout the years. Derek Johnson and Mac Brock is on our new album he's out in North Carolina. And so yeah, it's constantly morphing and shifting, but Kim and I have been there since the beginning, and Banny as our pastor. So
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. I think I went to one service there a while ago. You guys were in the school.
yeah.
And man, it was really awesome. I don't know if you were there. I think you might have been traveling that weekend.
Yeah, maybe I'm out of town a lot, so.
Yeah. It's probably weird being home now, huh? So much, or
It is weird. I'm naturally a homebody, although because of my, what I do, like I've had to like force myself to be, be more of an extrovert, I guess, and out. And so yeah, it has been kind of a weird dynamic. My last thing I did, I was telling you earlier, was with Pastor Levi Lesko in Montana.
yeah.
And we were like, I was supposed to go like snowboarding. I'd never been snowboarding, do all this stuff. And we did his service, and then we were scheduled to do a rite the next day with his team. And I'm getting texts, he's getting texts. He's like, it sounds like the government's shutting down. Like they may, stop travel. Like I was like, I should change my flight. They closed the ski park and all that stuff. And like, so yeah, that was my last trip, early March. And it has been kind of interesting being home, doing the homeschool thing with the kids.
How has that been for you, man? Honestly, my wife really holds down the home. My daughter's 4, so she's doing like preschool. But man, what is it like? Because you said 4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids.
So what is it like homeschooling? You went from traveling, doing this, now homeschooling them all. Like, what has it been like for you, man? What have you learned?
What have I learned? Their teachers are phenomenal. Like, I think what I've learned is how much their teachers actually do. And they've been really great at, I don't know if it's just our school or all the schools are doing this, but like every day, especially my first grader, she'll get like from her teacher, she'll get like videos of like, and then on Zoom, and like, hey, if you need extra help with your math, like stay on this Zoom call. And like every lesson plan's just, all in like Google. They have this thing called Google Classroom. And so it's just been, I can't imagine doing it without the teachers. The hardest part for me is getting, especially my first grader, Aria. She just wants to party and play this silly video game called Roblox. And so I'm like, I almost have to like bribe her, like, you can't play that game until you do your schoolwork. And so,
Yeah.
But yeah, we're figuring it out as we go.
My wife, one of her questions is, what have you learned being a dad? Like, and I definitely want to take notes from this, man. I feel like I have failed so much times as a dad. I have two daughters, and so I grew up with all boys, and so having two daughters was so different for me.
Yeah.
Where I grew up in the house, you don't do something. You're like, hey, go do that. But I do that
Right.
now. My daughter starts crying. You
Right.
spoke harshly to me, and I'm like, I didn't mean to. Like, I just told you to go to your room. Or so, what has it been like for you, like as a dad, man? Like, what have you like learned?
In this season or just in general?
I would just say in general, like, what have you learned? Because you're much more experienced than I am, man. What your oldest is 10, right?
10, she'll be 10 Thursday. Yeah.
So what is, yeah, in her 9 almost 10 years, and then other kids, like, what have you learned as a father?
Man, I'm still figuring a lot of that out too, but I grew up I grew up with girls, so I have sisters. So having girls was a little, I guess maybe a little, I had a little bit of experience being around.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing I've learned is, or I'm trying my best to learn, is to be present. Um,
Wow.
Especially with each kid having different personalities, you'll find out, and they come out more and more the older they get, is like they each, it's that love language thing. Like,
Does your daughter need a lot of attention? Does she need, how is she?
so my oldest, she's probably more of a quality time person, loves the one-on-one, wants to go on dates, but she's not the type that's gonna beg for it. She's a little bit more, probably like me, more internalizes things. So I have to kind of learn to recognize that. That's probably the biggest thing I'm learning, is to
Wow.
recognize what my kids need as far as their love languages, which is huge. And so my 7-year-old love just wants to wrestle, and he doesn't want to have, like, at least right now, doesn't want to have a big, deep and meaningful conversation. She wants to wrestle and party, and my 10-year-old wants to, go on a nice fancy date now. And so, and then my boy, he's just kind of go with the flow too. So yeah, I think just learning to be present and try to figure out their love languages, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
always learning, but that's a big
That's
one. Being
that's
present,
so
put the phone down, put the phone in the other room, and just be with them. So it goes
so
a long
good.
way.
And that's hard, man. I thought I was gonna be, there's sometimes my daughter's like, Daddy, another meeting, even here,
Yeah.
because now it's Zoom,
Yeah. Right.
so it's,
Right. Yeah.
well, yeah. And honestly, man, I wish I could say that I've mastered that too. I'm learning literally before I came out here. I'm like, hey, we're gonna get some time once Daddy's done here. And I know for me, man, sometimes I've battled feeling, my wife's on, she's saying so good. I know I've battled feeling guilty sometimes of not being able to navigate
Right.
what it's like being in demand of so many people. And then also now my daughter's older, and it's funny, man. She, today she came out from looking in the mirror. She's like, Daddy, I don't know. Am I pretty? I've been telling her she's beautiful since she was
Right.
born. I'm
Yeah.
like, yes. Are you crazy? Like, you were the
Yeah.
most beautiful, little girl I've ever seen. And yeah, man, hearing that, being present is so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes a long way.
Yeah.
These meetings and doing work at home now, especially, it's unavoidable. But I think when you do have those times, just me, and I don't do it perfectly, by any means, but just trying to be aware of that.
Yeah. Do any of your kids sing, or like, are they into music?
We're like, they're at that age where we're trying to figure that out, or see what they have, different things, or interests are starting to come to the surface. But Ella wants to get in piano lessons. Our little Liv, our 4-year-old, she's like this little dainty, little graceful thing that really, I think, would be would love ballet. And but I haven't put them in any official lessons or anything yet. So hopefully, my plan is, once these things open up again, I'll be able to get them in some stuff. So
What do you love to do, man? What do you love to do besides music? Like,
what do man, I'm 4 kids. I love just wrestling them, and don't have a lot of time to do much else. But I grew up a video gamer. I used to be.
really?
Oh yeah, I was like
What
hardcore.
console though, man?
I was way into PC gaming.
Really?
Yeah, but I haven't done that as much recently. Although my brother-in-law, he this old game called Age of Empires. He sent me like a free digital, or he sent me a digital copy that he bought. He's like, hey, let's get on. So a couple nights ago, I had done this in like since I was a teenager, since like Halo LAN
Halo.
party.
Oh my gosh.
But like we stayed up so late playing this silly strategy game, and I was like dead the next day. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love being with my kids. I have bought a house that's got, it's a fixer-upper, but it's got a couple of acres, so I'm kind of like outside. There's like deer and coyotes and different things running around. I like being outside. In
That's
Redding,
awesome.
I loved fishing. I used to fish all the time. I haven't done that much since I moved to Sacramento, but I hope to get back into that.
Your mom put on their fishing.
Yeah, it used to be. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it used to be fishing. What about you? What are some of your
Dude,
hobbies?
it depends, man. The thing about me, it's a good thing and it's a terrible thing. I'm 150% in whatever I do. So I go through phases. So I went through a sneaker phase. I don't know if you like sneakers.
I wear them. I'm not like, yeah, go ahead.
Dude, I went through a sneaker phase, man, and I was just telling I'm starting to sell them off now. So
Yeah.
I was literally, when Corona hit, I was looking at my closet of shame, and I'm like, sucks, man. I can't eat none of this. Just can't feed my kids. Like,
Right.
so I think I've just get into different things, whether it's clothing for a season. You know, I do love music. I'm a guitar player. I play blues. So
I heard you play. I saw some of your videos.
yeah, that's
So,
cool, man. I love blues. I love there's been moments I've gotten really into music.
yeah.
But honestly, man, this may sound so dumb. I love like house projects, man.
Yeah.
Like just getting little things done around the house. It never stops. My wife, that's been the biggest complaint of quarantine. She's like, another project, another project,
Yeah.
another project.
Well done, though.
Yeah.
Are you pretty handy, I assume, then?
No, I'm not handy in any capacity.
But you just love it. You go for it.
I'm the guy that finds things that needs to get done, and then I call someone and pay them to do it.
Okay.
But I am not handy in any capacity. I won't even put together an IKEA dresser. I end up getting frustrated. I'll break a drawer and then I'll just leave it. I can't do it, man. But I think you're handy, right? Because Banning would say you would come over and help him build stuff.
Not as much as some of my friends or even my brother-in-law. Like my brother-in-law built like a barn a couple weekends, like this massive 2-story barn, and like, and I'm not like that level. But like, this house is a fixer-upper. I'm like learning, like I just like actually these walls I like skimmed, coated, doing drywall stuff. We redid my kitchen with a guy. He was
Wow.
but I was in there, just trying to keep up. But yeah.
Dude, that's
But
awesome.
Banning, I don't even think owns a single tool.
Oh my-
Like he had me. I know him well enough to if he had, hey, look, why don't you come over? Like some project is gonna need to be done. It's been this way since I was a teenager. Like, hey, why don't you come over? And we'll do something fun later. We'll play we play Halo or whatever after. But there'd always be like yard work that needed to be done. But like the last, why don't you come over? Was like, I show up and he's got this trampoline that needs to be built for his son.
Oh my gosh.
A surprise for his son's birth, and he has no tools. And I'm like, I told him finally, jokingly, like, hey, next time just tell me and I'll bring some of my tools, because this would have been a lot easier had I had a drill or something.
That is hilarious. It's funny, man. I'm the same way. One of my guys came over the other day. I'm like, hey, I think you might be on watching too. I'm like, bro, come over, like, because he wanted to talk with me. I'm like, we'll talk. I go, I just need to run a quick errand. He ends up getting here, and I'm like, bro, can you go run the errand for me? I'll call you on the phone on your way. So he ended up picking up a dresser for me. Dude, I am literally the same, man. I think I own like a screwdriver, a hammer, because I do know how to nail a nail into the wall to hang a picture. But that's about my extent, man. I'm not a handy person. But I do like things like, I'm a clean freak, so like you take off shoes in my house, like I have everything in its place.
Yeah.
Dude, I bought the dog I have a dog, I have a spill-proof water bowl.
Oh,
I'm on Amazon always trying to find convenient things to buy to make my life more clean.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, McCord 1582. That was the guy. That's Chris. He's the one who he ended up running an errand for me. So I ended up talking to him. Yeah.
You and Banning has shared that personality trait. 100%.
That is hilarious.
That's awesome.
Well, Chris, man, I really appreciate you, man, just making time. Would there be anything you'd love just before jumping off and maybe just praying? Would there be anything you'd love just to share, man? Any encouragement? I know in this time, as people they're going through all types of walks of life. We're going to re-air this. We reach a ton of students. Would there be anything just from your heart briefly you'd say, man, this is what I would encourage you just in this time?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to add a little bit to what we were saying is just, or sort of summarize is like, given this situation with the quarantine or whatever you're going through, God remains the same, and there's peace and there's hope and there's trust in that truth. And so, no matter what your circumstance or situation looks like, Jesus is good. He's faithful. He's still on the throne, and I know that's sometimes easier said than done to believe that and actually walk that out, but it's true, and we are going to come, whatever you're going through, and even the situation, COVID and all that, like, we're going to come out stronger. And so just lean into him and press into him, and he's so faithful. I've seen it time and time again. I know you probably have too, but you can trust him, because he's that good. He's way gooder than we think.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah.
Well, man, will you just pray for us, man? Before we jump off, and people that are on, if you guys are watching, I'd love to know where y'all are from. Maybe throw up your flag, your state, and then if you guys have any just testimonies from this time, just DM One Voice. We'd love just to know what God did, with and through this conversation. But Chris, man, we'd love you to pray for us.
Yeah. Holy Spirit, we love you, and we love your presence, and I pray that every single person watching, that you would invade where they're at. You would invade their room, and that they would have an encounter with you right now, today, throughout this week, that there would just be a sense of your presence. And even right now, you would put a hunger in their heart, a burning passion in their heart for you. And in this season where we're quarantined and life looks different, God, I pray that there would just be a hunger that's deposited in each one of us, a hunger for you, a hunger for revival. I just pray that your presence will be manifest in each one of these listening. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Chris. I really look forward to hanging one day with you, man, in person.
Likewise. Yeah. I'll come hang out. I'll let you know once this is,
come to our house, man. We'll cook you some bomb Hispanic food, man.
Awesome. I'll remember to take my shoes off.
Take your shoes off, yes. And I'll make sure I won't have any projects for you, bro. Just come over and hang.
Yeah. Let me know ahead of time if you do.
Thank you so much, man. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Take care, man.
Yeah.
Bye.